protect minorities from discrimination and racism. Now, she made the comments as Roma Holocaust Memorial Day was marked on Sunday. A ceremony was held in Poland to mark the massacre of Sinti and Roma people Auschwitz during the Second World War. The Nazis and their allies killed a quarter of all European Roma, as many as 500,000 people. The United Nations also condemned what it called an alarming rise in aggression and violence against Roma minorities. Well, I spoke to Fernand de Varenne, the UN Special Rapporteur on minority issues, and earlier asked him about the significance of the date, August the 2nd.
Well, what happened was on the night of the 2nd to 3rd of August 1944, some 3,000 Roma, some say perhaps as many as 5,000, mostly women, children, and elderly people, were killed at the Auschwitz concentration camp. So I think that was one of the worst massacres that occurred at that in one particular evening, and that actually is part of the perhaps not sufficiently well-known story about the massacre. In fact, we could say a partial genocide of the Roma in Sinti.
And despite awareness that has been raised by the UN, Roma vilification continues, and it's apparently on the rise right now. Now, why is that, in your opinion?
Well, we have been seeing a rise in, for example, hate speech, misinformation, and disinformation in relation in social media, targeting Roma for a number of years. But during the pandemic, this seems to actually has increased even more significantly, and as has the number of armed attacks against the Roma in different parts of Europe. So we have here, I think, a phenomenon where, in addition to the pandemic itself, which is a virus of the body, it's causing a disease of the mind, if I can be allowed to use that expression, as we're seeing some magnifying effects of hate speech with scapegoating and stigmatization of Roma and other minorities who are being specifically targeted.
And as you say, now stigmatization is on the rise when it comes to these Roma communities. But if we look at the situation, the general situation that these communities have to live with, we hear of segregation in schools of Roma communities, of Roma children. How is that possible in Europe today?
I think there are unfortunately still a great deal of stereotyping, of portraying the Roma as others, as not fully belonging, and of being even a source, or its claim as being a source of contagion, being blamed for this. So I think, despite the many efforts in different countries, and there are a number of positive innovations in activities, by and large, I think we haven't addressed the lack of equality. Not all Roma communities or neighborhoods, for example, have access to running water. Many of them may not have equal access to public health facilities or information in relation to public health, for example. So we have a number of factors which keep stigmatizing and presenting the Roma as somehow a threat, as not belonging, and this is being actually exacerbated currently with a growing vilification of Roma, and some politicians, unfortunately, and right-wing activists are using this this context, perhaps, to advance a discriminatory and even racist perception in relation to the Roma.
And still to come on your news now, California is battling more wildfires. More on that story after the break.